Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Well, good morning. The time being 9 a.m, I declare open the general meeting for the Gladstone Regional Council for Tuesday, the 1st of August 2023. We do have an apology received from Councillor Churchill. Councillors, so can I have a motion that that be received? Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Seconded, Councillor Branthwaite. All in favour? The motion is carried. I also like to acknowledge that we have Councillor O'Grady, Councillor Cameron and Councillor Muscat currently participating online. The next item on the agenda, councillors, is messages of condolence. Do we have any messages of condolence? No messages of condolence. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is prior notifications of conflicts of interest, and I'll hand over to Councillor Branthwaite.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I, Councillor Darryl Branthwaite, inform the meeting that I have a declarable conflict of interest in the agenda item G 4.2, Gladstone Area Promotion Development Limited Funding Review, as GAPDL provides my booking services for my business. As a result of this declarable conflict of interest, I will be leaving the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Branthwaite. Councillor Muscat, are you able online to be able to declare your conflict in this item as well, or would you like to do that when we get to the item?
I'm happy to declare a declarable conflict of interest on the same item because I'm a director of Strong Communities and we have service agreements with GAPDL, and I will leave the room. Oh, I think it's a declarable, isn't it?
That's correct. Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Any further conflicts of interest?
Just to remind the room that I'm Council's representative on the GAPDL board.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Councillor Hanson, and that's not considered a conflict, so therefore you'll be able to remain in the room for the decision as you're representing council as well. Okay, councillors, the next item on the agenda is the Mayor's statement on current issues before we move to our deputation. Of course, we had the Flourish Festival at the Gladstone Marina Parklands. Fantastic facility, obviously, in our community, provided by the Gladstone Ports Corporation. Amazing event organised there by Integrate Queensland. So well done to the team for organising that fantastic multicultural event at our GPC Marina Parklands. On the weekend, it was National Tree Day, and thank you, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Hanson and Councillor Branthwaite, I believe all involved in National Tree Day on the weekend, so thank you for participating, and to our community for coming out and getting involved in that national event as well. It's great to see everyone getting involved in that. Also, we had the World Science Festival at our Gladstone Entertainment Convention Centre, hosted again, back again for another year, an amazing event in our small community, considering we bring that here every year, so thanks to our industry partners for making sure that happens. And everyone had a fantastic time, and I'm sure the councillors who attended might be able to talk about that more in council reports later this morning. But most excitingly, councillors, yesterday we had our second Innovate Wrap launch, which was at the Phillip Street Communities Precinct, and thank you, Councillor Muscat and your co-chair Annette, and all the committee involved in getting our second Innovate Wrap launched at the Phillip Street Communities Precinct yesterday. And thank you again, Councillor Muscat, for doing the radio for us this morning on ABC Capricornia. I think you did a fantastic job explaining to the community what our wrap is all about, our reconciliation action plan, our second Innovate Wrap, on how Council intends to work with our First Nations people for the next 2 years up to 2025. Today, at about 10:30, we'll have the Assistant Minister for Local Government, Nikki Boyd, visiting the Gladstone region. At that point, the council meeting is still going. I will hand over to the Deputy Mayor. We'll break for morning tea, and then I will be showing the Minister some of the projects that they have funded in our region, including at our Gladstone Aquatic Centre and, of course, at our Tondoon Botanic Gardens, and then taking her to Boyne Island, Tenham Sands, to show us some other projects we would like them to fund in the future. So if you're listening, Minister Boyd, we'll see you around 10:30 this morning. And of course, the Mayor's Youth Breakfast is coming up on Wednesday, the 9th of August. Nominations have now closed, and we had over 200 nominations, I believe. I've been busily signing certificates, about a third of the way through, so hopefully I'll get all those done by the 9th of August. And then, of course, it's the grand opening of the Jobs Pathways Centre at Apprentices and Trainees Queensland. That's happening this week as well, so I think that'll be a fantastic opportunity for our apprentices and trainees to have access to all those facilities that have been donated by, I believe, from Equip. Councillor Cameron might be able to update us more on that as well, but it's the lathes, the milling machines, the welders, the presses, and all the essential tools that are required for school-based training. So thank you to Equip for organising that, and it's fantastic to see that our former Gaggle, Gladstone Area Group Apprentices, is going from strength to strength, as now known as Apprentices Trainees Queensland. Thank you, councillors. The next item on the agenda is the confirmation of the minutes G2.1 is the confirmation of the general meeting minutes for the 18th of July. Moved Councillor Goodluck, seconded Councillor Hanson. That they be a true and correct record. All in favour? Thank you. That is carried. Okay, thank you. Now we move to our deputations, and I'd like to welcome Tim McDougall, General Manager of Decarbonisation, of course, Nicole from Rio Tinto, to the council meeting this morning, and hand over to you for your deputation. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I don't know what I was doing wrong there. We're all good? Well, morning everybody, and firstly thanks for the opportunity to come and present to the council today. As Mr Mayor said, my name's Tim McDougall. I'm the General Manager for Refinery Decarbonisation, based here in Gladstone, and have been in town nearly 12 months, and sure the time has flown. Really today I want to provide a bit of an update on where we're at with some of our key projects in the region so that you're informed on the activities that we're leading here across our refineries specifically. But let me first acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where we're meeting today, the Baili, the Gurang, the Gurang and the Teralam Bunda peoples, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Oops. So I think I just wanted to start off with kind of painting the context. Back in 2021, we set ourselves some pretty aggressive decarbonisation targets with a 50% reduction in our Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 2030. And then a very ambitious position to be net zero by 2050. And to do that over the next 7 odd years, we need to spend close to $7.5 billion is what's been allocated to be able to support that transition. I think this slide is really helpful because it paints the picture of our emissions across Rio Tinto globally. And when you look down at Australia and on the east coast, which is a combination of both Australia and New Zealand, but 48% of our emissions globally come out of the eastern seaboard of Australia and New Zealand. You then couple that with our operations in Western Australia, and you've got the best part of 60% of our emissions globally coming out of Australia. Where we are sitting here today, we're largely in the heartland of our emissions globally, so an extremely important part of our asset base to make sure we are progressing and moving forward with our decarbonisation journey. Just to bring it down a level into where those emissions are actually sitting, I don't know, I can use the mouse. So the two key areas that really impact the Gladstone area, the first one, the 27% up the top of the bar, and that's really focused on our smelters. Our smelters, we use 13% of the national energy market to power our smelters, and the 27% is really about moving that power away from the traditional coal-fired power to renewable power. The other key area is the 15%, which is the alumina process heat, and that's the area that I'm specifically accountable, and that's the energy that we use within our refineries. And again, traditionally we've burnt coal to generate the steam, and we've also burnt gas to generate heat as well in our calcining process, and this program of work will see us moving away from those traditional fossil fuels to renewable energy sources. We do acknowledge, though, that we will also have offsets, which will play a role in meeting some of our targets, and we have a dedicated team looking at projects across the globe that will generate offsets to help us meet some of our targets. But they will be a last resort to help us hit our targets. Obviously, we want to deliver as much of the decarbonisation work as possible, rather than just relying on offsets. So what does that look like in Gladstone? I think starting with the box on the left-hand side, the one thing that we have learned as we've got into this program is that any energy that we can be more efficient with or reduce the amount of energy we use within our operations has a dramatic impact on the amount of renewable energy that we need to bring into our operations. So our first and most important focus is how do we be more efficient with the energy that we currently generate. So the key project for us is out at QAL in this space, which is double digestion. It's the only project we have that is value accretive and NPV positive, and it looks at how we digest the bauxite. It allows us to do it at a lower temperature, which means we need less steam, and ultimately, in this case, we'll burn less coal. We're also looking at how do we recover steam. You obviously see our operations, and we have a lot of steam venting to atmosphere, and how do we take that steam and recompress it and reheat it and reuse it in the system rather than releasing it to atmosphere. Then when you look at our in our refineries as a whole, 70% of our energy goes into the generation of creating steam, so that's in our digestion process. We've got two key projects we're looking at there, which is really the electrification of how we generate that steam. So moving away from burning coal to electrification, and that is electric boilers is one technology, basically like an industrial scale kettle, where we take the steam off the kettle rather than relying on a coal-fired boiler. And then the other source being thermal storage. One of the challenges that we have with both our smelters and the refinery is that we do need that constant supply of electricity or steam for both of our operations, and how we firm that becomes critical. Renewables can play a really key role when the sun's shining and when the wind's blowing, and that is a fair portion of the time. But as you'd appreciate, it's not 24 hours a day and consistent. So how we firm that electricity or that steam supply becomes critical. And where we see thermal storage playing a key role for our refineries is being able to take the renewable electrons when they're available, pushing them into a large thermal mass, which we heat up during the day, and then we can use that thermal mass to raise the steam at night when the renewable power is not available. So that will most likely work in tandem with electric boilers to generate the steam that we need. The final step in the process is the hydrogen calcination, is the calcination process. About 30% of our emissions come out of the calcination process, And hopefully you would have all seen in the last 3 weeks, the last month, we announced our very exciting partnership with ARENA and also Sumitomo, where we're going to build an electrolyser out on site. And probably makes sense to talk about the project here, where we will build an electrolyser. It's only a small one. It's 2.5 megawatts. We'll generate about 250 tonne of hydrogen a year, which we will then store and compress, and will allow one of our calciners at the Yarwun operation to run for a 2-hour period, about every 1 to 2 weeks, which will allow us to validate and test the technology. This is world first technology to be burning hydrogen in the calcining process. But we are quite confident that we can prove the technology. We've done lab scale testing, or lab-based testing, and then a pilot scale test, and this will be the first large-scale test of its kind in the world, which is super exciting. It was great to have the Deputy Mayor out on site with us when we had that announcement about 3 weeks ago. So that's the final step in the process for us as we decarbonise our refineries. So it is very much, just to reiterate, the 70% steam generation moving away from coal and gas to electrification, and then the 30% of our refineries moving to hopefully hydrogen to generate that heat for the calcining process. Significant program of work. We're looking at about $2 billion worth of spend to be able to deliver on these projects. And it's a pretty exciting time, and I think it creates great opportunities for our operations, but also the Gladstone region and the central Queensland region as a whole. The hydrogen calcination project obviously would only be possible is only possible when Gladstone becomes a green hydrogen hub, and we're part of that hydrogen alliance, and we think we can be a key foundational partner for domestic consumption of hydrogen, which will support a larger export opportunity in the region as well. So look, I know we don't have a lot of time, so I guess that really wraps up the key part of the update that I wanted to provide around where we're at with our decarbonisation ambitions in the region. We are building a team, we are building momentum. The one thing I would say is this is extremely complex work. We are developing technologies that don't exist right now. We're investing heavily in that, but we also know we can't do it by ourselves, so our partnerships with other industry players, technology providers and developers, the state and the federal government, and of course the Gladstone Regional Council is a key. We can only do this if we can get those key partnerships working well and collaboratively together, so that's a key focus for us as we move forward. So thanks very much for your time. Very open to questions if anybody has any.
Yep, thanks, Tim. And it was an exciting announcement with Sumitomo. Obviously, Deputy Mayor was there. I was with Sumitomo in Japan at the time, so it's something we've been obviously working on for a lot of years from the initial signing of the MOU, I think about 2018, and to see Sumitomo now actually moving in and partnering with Rio is pretty exciting. $2 billion investment just in Rio alone. That's exciting times for our community. It's going to be over a number of years, obviously, but that's in addition to all the other industries that are going to be spending money, obviously, with Stanwell Corporation, also what we see happening in Orica and others. So great news for Gladstone. I was speaking at the Real Deal event at Wards the other night and explained how it is exciting times for us. And mentioned Rio Tinto a couple of times, the largest asset base in the world here in Gladstone, and investing in our community. We really appreciate it. Questions, councillors? Councillor Branthwaite.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Tim, thanks very much for that. I was recently, last week, I was at the Developing Northern Australian Conference in Darwin, and to be honest, all eyes are on Gladstone at the moment and the work that you guys are doing. Everybody's interested in the pioneering work that Rio's doing. One thing you brought up in there, you're talking about storing heat. How are you doing that? What sort of products are you using for that?
So we're looking at large thermal masses, and there's probably about 6 different suppliers of the technology out in the market at the moment. But to oversimplify it, they're like large concrete blocks. There's obviously a few different types of technology, and they're heated in 2 different ways. One is either with a heating element where you blow hot air over it, or where you actually have the heating elements running through the blocks themselves. Some of the technology has graphite impregnated into the thermal mass, just to help with that storage of the higher temperature. But each of the 6 providers, we've also looked at with salt. Salt's a technology that molten salt is used.
Well, that's what I was thinking you would be using.
But it's more large thermal blocks rather than molten salt is the most likely technology.
Yeah, it got brought up at the Developing Northern Australian Conference the other day with the molten salt, which was what they were talking about doing, and trapping heat and storing heat for power generation and whatnot. So it's very interesting. So it's a real good news story for this region and for Rio Tinto globally. So there's a lot of eyes watching what's going on here. I can tell you that now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Goodluck.
Thanks, Tim and Nicole. Really exciting stuff that Rio Tinto is doing here in our region, and I congratulate Rio Tinto and thank you for your efforts, because it's going to go a long way to sustaining the industry base that we have in our region in a post-2050 world. I think it was $7.5 billion investment. Obviously, no small numbers there. I've never seen $7.5 billion, but I imagine it's a big pile of money. But I was just curious, is that the $7.5 billion Rio Tinto's, that's the global investment? Do you have any idea roughly what percentage of that would be going into the Gladstone region or the East Coast, Australia, Pacific, New Zealand region, given that it's about 60%, was it, of the emissions?
Good question. Thanks, Deputy Mayor. And I don't want to quote specifics because we're still developing technology where we don't know what the full kind of cost of the deployment is. But when you look specifically at the refinery program, we're looking at close to a $2 billion spend specifically for the refineries. Then you've got the repowering, and that $7 billion is the capital investment. I think it should also be acknowledged that as we do the energy transition away from coal-fired power to renewable, while in this region we're not talking about building renewables ourselves, we will see a transition where we're supporting the development through long-term power agreements for renewable power in the region as well. So that type of co-commitment isn't directly linked to the $7.5 billion, but the $2 billion for the refinery decarb program is certainly our link to the 7.5 in this region specifically, where the repowering is more about stimulation of other projects, which we will be connected to through long-term power offtake agreements.
And I was curious, I know that I think your refinery and or smelting processes in Canada, very similar products to what we produce here, but less than half of the emissions come from Canada. Just for people watching, can you give some context around what's the different processes there compared with Gladstone and why the emissions are less?
Of course, and thanks for calling that out. To go back to the slide, you'll notice in Canada, that's the other big area of note, is the 20% of the emissions coming out of Canada, and that is largely linked to our smelting operations in Canada, which produce more aluminium than what we do in the Pacific region. The reason why those emissions are so much lower is the majority of the power coming out of that support those smelters in the Atlantic region is all hydropower. So there is a portion of your traditional coal-fired and gas-fired electricity generation, but the lion's share is really hydro, which also doesn't have the firming challenges that we have with the renewable energy transition. So the largest portion coming out of Canada is really related to the anodes that we use in the smelting process, and that's what generates really the 20%. So it's a different profile of our emissions due to the hydropower in the Atlantic region.
And I think we've got two proposed pumped hydro projects in the region. You guys would be talking to those proponents, I'm assuming, and about potential partnerships or moving forward. Yeah,
we would love to see pumped hydro in the region because, like I said, it provides a great firming option to support the renewables. Batteries obviously play a role as well, but pumped hydro, and we see that as a pathway to firm through the grid with the pumped hydro is something that we're absolutely keen to continue to explore.
No, and just lastly, I'll just again thank you. There'd be 6,000 or 8,000 workers and families in our region that rely on the jobs from Yarwun, QAL, the Boyne Smelter, and indirectly through suppliers and local contractors. Plenty of my friends and family all work out on these sites, so it's great to see the investment approach from Rio Tinto, and we look forward to maintaining the proud industrial heritage which Rio Tinto is a big part of for decades to come. So thanks for coming along and showing us what it's all about today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Tim. Wonderful report. Exciting news for the future of Gladstone and the region generally. My question is directly related to your indication that the technology at this stage is not so advanced as to succeed. Where to if it doesn't? And is it a case that if we throw as much money as we can at it, eventually we will succeed? And if it doesn't succeed, do we have a plan B, which doesn't include the closure of your operations in the Gladstone region?
Great question. So I would say we have probably a plan A, B and C. The reality of any research and development type work is there will be projects that fail. You know, not every research and development project that starts goes all the way through to completion. So I think we acknowledge that as a business, and that's why we're actually looking at various different technology development pathways. The thing I would say in terms of the technology development is that a lot of the technology we're talking about has been done at a laboratory or technology development level. Where we haven't seen or where the gap exists is in the large scale deployment and the industrialisation of the technology. So thermal storage, you can go and see somebody, one of the suppliers with a facility that will provide about 2% of our steam demand, and that's the largest technology available globally at a small scale. So partnering with those technology providers, and we're not just going with, to use the thermal storage as the example, we're not just partnering with one technology developer, we're partnering with many, because we do think many different iterations and progressing not just one but a couple will be key. And so our plan A, B and C, you know, if you look at steam as an example, we're looking at thermal storage, we're looking at electric boilers. Gas will inevitably play a role in the transition in the short term, so we're also exploring options with gas. We're keeping our options open around biofuels as well, so whether that be pellets and granules that can go into the boilers to replace coal, or your e-methane or other types of biogases. We're kind of keeping all of our options open, and that's acknowledging that the maturity of all of these technologies are low in the TRL scale, so the maturity of the technology. And we're quite confident out of all of those options we'll find a pathway. I think the challenge that really presents with all of that is how do we make the economics work so that our operations are sustainable in the long term, because there is a balance between being an early adopter and the cost with being the early adopter, and then the long term, you know, sustainability of the input costs for our operations. So getting that balance right is one of our key kind of focuses as we develop the technology.
The broader picture, Tim, as I see it listening to you, is that if you're able to perfect this technology, not only for the Gladstone region, this could well lead to a seismic shift in the international development of this particular technology. So not only would we be an exporter, not only would our region be an exporter of hydrogen, and also, and being able to use it domestically, it would also be an exporter of intellectual property that could change the dynamics of the world.
Absolutely. And I think hydrogen is a great example. Like, if we can validate this technology that we can use hydrogen to calcine alumina, that is something that then can be deployed globally, not just nationally but globally. And similarly, a lot of the technology developers that we're working with, they see us as a key partner that can help them industrialise the technology. And that's one of their biggest challenges, is having the capital available and somebody to partner and work with to take a lab scale test to industrialisation. And I think that is a key role that we can play. Albeit acknowledging that it's not simple, and if it was simple and easy, we would have done it by now. So there's plenty of challenges, as you've rightly called out, and we need several plans, plan A, B and C, to make sure that we're successful in the long term.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Goodluck.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll just point out one thing. It dawned on me when I was with yourself, Tim, and Mark and the whole team, Nicole, a few weeks ago, and you talk about the challenges, you talk about the technology. I think it was on the 16th of July 1969, we landed a man on the moon. All right? And many detractors prior to that occasion said that it wasn't possible, it couldn't be done, we'd never succeed, but it happened. And it was almost 54 years later to the day, I think it was 3 days, 13th of July, we were out there making the announcement, and Rio Tinto was talking about 100% hydrogen blend to reduce potentially up to 30% of your emissions through your calcination processes. So not necessarily comparing it to landing a man on the moon, but the principles around... Well, I think there's some similarities there around...
The significance for us is about the same.
Exactly. And there's lots of detractors out there. You'll hear lots of detractors talking about how it can't be done, that the challenge is too great. But it can be done, and it is being done right here, and it's being done through the efforts of Rio Tinto, collaborations and partnerships with other industry players, state and federal governments. We're here in the Gladstone region doing it, and I thank you for that. And I compare that to the same challenges. We will mount this challenge, and I've got 100% confidence that we will succeed. Thank you and congratulations again.
Cheers. Thank you. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Nicole. Can I have a move that the deputation from Rio Tinto be received? Councillor Goodluck move. Seconded, Councillor Trevor. All in favour? None online. Motion is carried. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
No worries.
Thanks, everyone.
It's a great opportunity for our community to see live streamed.
We're very excited to be back in the Gladstone region, where I'm originally from Bundaberg, and after spending nine years in Western Australia, it's been fantastic for the family to be back closer to home. So that's great.
Right.
Yep.
No worries. All right. Thanks, councillors. Thank you. Next item on the agenda are our officers' reports. Our first officers' report is G4.1, which is the naming of council infrastructure asset Ella J. Court, and I'll hand over to the Acting General Manager of Customer Experience, Ali Moore. Welcome, Ali.
Good morning and thank you, Mr Mayor. This report was tabled and deferred at the 4th of July general meeting. We have received an application to add Ella J. Court to the approved place name register and utilise the name in a new development, which is DA 146-2015 off Friswell Road, Barooah. This application has been assessed against Council's naming of infrastructure assets policy and corporate standard, including the spelling and form, the uniqueness and appropriateness, and the source of the name, as indicated in Table 1 of the report. Given the corporate standard outlines, there are no limitations on the source of the name, and we have identified the name comes from a local developer having resided in the region of 25 years and wishes to use his daughter's name. Given this, we recommend the approval of the application and we take the report as read. I have Shane Wales from Customer Solutions with me to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or a mover for the officer's recommendation, please? Councillor Hanson?
Happy to move the officer's recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Trevor. Any questions? Councillor Grady, was that a question? No? Happy to support? All right, we'll put the motion. All in favour. That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was an easy one. Okay, the next item on the agenda is G4.2, which is Gladstone Area Promotion Development Limited Funding Review. I'll hand over to the General Manager of Community and Lifestyle, and Kylie Lee, and we have two councillors, Councillor Branthwaite and Councillor Muscat, declaring a conflict of Thank you. And for those watching online, I'll just reiterate that we have Councillor Cameron and Councillor O'Grady participating online, so we still have a quorum. Thank you. Kylie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good
And
morning,
welcome,
Mayor
Felicity.
and councillors. I have Felicity Barker with us today. She's our Acting Manager of Arts and Entertainment, so we're very pleased to present this report to you. In March 2023, Council was advised that TEQ would be reducing its tourism network funding by almost $100,000. For almost a decade, Council had continued its funding strategy to match funding with TEQ. However, in order to continue to deliver its services, Council agreed to fund the shortfall for this year. This was an additional amount of $107,000, making a total of $500,000. The $107,000 additional funding is unbudgeted. Since that time, TEQ has met with its regional tourism operators and has agreed to continue its tourism network funding at its previous level of $393,000. Council has yet to provide the funding to GAPDL and has an opportunity to return to its long-term funding strategy to match TEQ funding for GAPDL at the budgeted amount of $393,000 and returning the unbudgeted amount of $107,000. I invite any questions and discussions from councillors.
Thank you, Kylie. I did write to the Minister after our council meeting of that day, which was a very long, heated debate, I guess you could say. Most of us were very disappointed that Tourism Events Queensland had made the decision to cut funding. I think it was Councillor Trevor and Councillor Goodluck who probably had the most to say that day about, the Queensland Government walking away at that point, what seemed to be walking away from supporting tourism in our community. We've just heard from local industry how important industry is in our community, how important that is to the state economy, and tourism is equally as important for our region as well. So it's fantastic to see they've honoured their commitment, and we have a long history of supporting GAPDL match funding. So I've always said if they were to fund more, we should fund more, and I think this is a good recommendation, but happy to hear what councillors have to say about that balance of funding. About 100,000 extra money we put in, you're saying that's not budgeted, okay?
That's correct, Mr Mayor, and in the options, sorry, it's remiss of me to say, in the options there is opportunity to redirect the funding should you wish, but please note it is unbudgeted money. Yep.
Okay. Unbudgeted, but it was money we were trying to find space for because we didn't expect Tourism Events Queensland to cut the funding to GAPDL at the time. So there is options for us to put that in another fund if we wanted to. But anyway, I'll leave this up to councillors. No doubt there's questions. Who would like to go first? Councillor Goodluck.
No questions, Mr Mayor, but I'd like to thank and congratulate the state government on their repositioning of the funding. It's great to see that they've come back on board with the match funding agreement, and also thank you and congratulate you for your advocacy, which no doubt played a significant part in achieving this solution. So I should do that. It was remiss of me. I know Councillor Trevor and I and others were very vocal when the decision was made not too long ago. But this is a great outcome for GAPDL and for tourism in our region, and I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Further comments, questions? Councillor Hanson.
Just a couple of questions. In your consultation with GAPDL on the 29th of June, when they announced that this, we haven't said yet that this is only a one-year funding. This funding is only for put back for 1 year, in the light of some changes that they would like to see happening with the Southern Great Barrier Reef branding and naming, and trying to bring the three regions in together to make it a bigger operation under the Southern Great Barrier Reef name. I would have thought that it'd be premature to remove that extra funding that we put in place a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was budgeted. I don't understand why you say it's not budgeted, but it wasn't. Well, that was my mistake. My apologies for that.
Mine too, Councillor Hanson. I thought it was budgeted as well.
Yeah.
But I can understand.
I think that the council requires more knowledge of what's happening in the Southern Great Barrier Reef tourism network prior to making this sort of kind of decision, and it's the recommendation you made is just say, bang, the money's gone that we were going to offer. It's just, we'll sit it somewhere else or put it back to doing something else. We should have all that information before I think we can make a decision on this. We should have had more consultation with GAPDL, and I think particularly not just GAPDL and its board to move forward in to be able to make a sustainable funding option moving forward, because GAPDL is our tourism providers, the council's tourism providers, and I just think there's much more consultation needs to be held to try and look at using the money that has been already given, or not given, but allocated, moving forward. And I think one of the options you had in, well, two of your options, but I prefer in your options opportunity analysis, option 3 is one I think that could be worked with GAPDL, and I would support that. Also, option 4 is an option, but I think there's more risk in that option than there would be in number 3. It's my point of view at the moment.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Hanson. The recommendation is based on the original conversation with GAPDL that they would be able to deliver the existing services at $393,000. So that's based where the recommendation comes from. With respect to the potential merger of RTOs into a destinational brand, that is a piece of consultation that is currently going on. Livingston Council's already been consulted with, and Gladstone's on the cards in the coming months. So
we've done some consultation already with.
Yeah.
We've had a meeting with Bundaberg, Bundaberg Tourism. Regarding what may happen in the next couple of years. Yeah. We still remember we've got our own region to think about too. It's not all about Southern Great Barrier Reef. There's a lot of it. That's a good marketing ploy, but we've also got our own tourism to worry about individually in this region.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Councillor O'Grady online.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do agree with Councillor Hanson, for the reason being, I don't believe in taking money off people, and if we can, especially organisations as GAPDL, for the reason being as we know, the tourism has grown, and we have to make that continue to grow within our region. So, if they put the money towards marketing or whatever else, I think would be a fantastic opportunity, because we need for people to start coming back. It might be a boost in tourism now, but it may drop off over the future years, because, it's just been a whirlwind since COVID. So I really believe that we should go with option 3 and support that option as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Grady. Councillors might remember at the time I was trying to draft a resolution at the meeting that allowed the additional funding to go to GAPDL without making it connected to the fact that Queensland tourism events had taken the money away. And the reason I wanted that is because I don't want to send a message to the state that you can just walk away from this and we'll pick it up. Happy to support more funding to GAPDL. I've always been a big supporter of what they do, promoting tourism in our region. The fact that it's unbudgeted does concern me, because I know I do remember it did happen just after budget. So that would have to come from somewhere else. So it's not taking money away as such, because they'll still get the exact amount of money. It's just coming from the state where it should come from. We're still matching it with 393. I would prefer, if we're going to allocate this $107,000, which, as I said, is not budgeted, so that's a concern. We have to find that. But if we allocate it, I would prefer it in a bucket of funds that everyone can apply for. Other organisations, and I won't name them because they'll probably make conflicts in the room then, to do marketing campaigns, or to do promotional campaigns, or to do something that supports our tourism and business sector, because it's not just tourism. Obviously, our business sectors supports the tourism industry. I'd be happy to support something like that. But I don't want to send another message back to the state that, because if you read my letter, and my conversations with the ministers was quite, you've walked away from us, you've given more money to Gold Coast, and we love the Gold Coast because we've just announced that we're having direct flights there with Bonza, but they don't need the support as much as our smaller communities do in terms of promoting tourism. So if we supported option 3, I'd prefer it went into a bucket of funds that everyone could apply for, and that sends a message to the state. We will match the funding that you provide to our regional tourism organisation, $393,000. If they want to increase it to $500, then let's match that, because that gives GAPD $1 million to work with. But they're not giving us that much money, and as we know, they were talking about cutting it. Anyway, let's throw this around the room a bit more. Councillor Goodluck.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I appreciate where Councillor Hanson and O'Grady are coming from, but I think there is some unknowns around the tourism sector and the RTOs, what's going to occur over the next 12 months or 2 years. We've got a presentation forthcoming from TEQ, I assume, was it, around what their plans are. The historic position of council is we will match TEQ funding, and this takes us back to that status quo from my perspective, and I agree with the Mayor. My biggest concern is that we send the wrong message to the state with whatever happens in the tourism sector and with RTOs and potential mergers, etc., that we might send a message that it's okay, Gladstone region ratepayers will cover it if TEQ decides to reduce funding to our tourism sector. And that's not the message that I want to send, because this partnership is a partnership between Tourism Events Queensland and the Gladstone Regional Council to support tourism in our region, and it's been a 50-50% partnership, and I would like to see the Gladstone Regional Council hold the line on that through whatever happens in the next year or two with the way that mergers might happen or whatever might take place, whatever the plans are from Tourism Events Queensland, and we will work with them to make sure that the Gladstone region gets the best outcomes for our tourism sector. But I do think we need to make sure that we hold the line on the 50-50% partnership. And to me, the officer's recommendation achieves that. And then we by all means, Councillor Hanson and O'Grady, if it turns out in 12 months' time or 2 years' time that we need to consider more funding, well, that can be a decision I think that I would be happy to consider at that time. But for the time being, I think it's important that we hold the line and we send a strong, clear message to the state and to TEQ that we expect and that we're happy to come on board with the traditional 50-50% partnership because that is fair for our region, for our ratepayers and for our tourism sector.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Councillor Hanson.
I think you'll find that TEQ have only indicated that the funding is for this year only. So we're going to be in the same situation as we would be now, next year, because there'll be no funding, I believe, next year. Well, I'm not sure whether there'll be funding. The indication is it's only for 1 year. Is that your indication from TEQ? Wouldn't it be better for us to be on the front foot and have some funding available there to do the projects that we need to bring all of those extra projects you're talking about into the region? And there's only one group that's allocated to do that, and that's GAPDL in the tourism area. Wouldn't it be smart to have that money still sitting there available project by project basis rather than, moving it somewhere else at the moment?
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Yes, Councillor Goodluck. I just thought maybe I might see if Councillor Cameron or Trevor. Yep.
I think that's probably all I have to say. And if you look at the standing orders that we've got here, we just can't go backwards and forwards and in debate. I've had two opportunities to talk, and I've finished now. And I think Councillor Goodluck's had two opportunities to talk, maybe three. I don't know, but. I don't know where you stand on that, Mr. Mayor, but we just can't go on backwards and forwards.
Thank you, and I just did say I'd like to hear from
You can borrow one
Cameron
of mine, Councillor Hanson.
Well, maybe Councillor Trevor or Cameron might like to speak. Councillor Cameron online, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good, thank you. Look, I totally agree with Councillor Goodluck on this one. What we're trying to do is to get this back to the status quo. The money is not funded. So there's money that I don't believe we got to reallocate at this time because it was never there to allocate in the first place. So this just gets us back to status quo and fully support the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Councillor, you can hold for a second, please. Councillor Goodluck. Councillor Trevor, would you like to comment?
Thank you, Mayor. Too many options, obviously, leading to this debate, but I was conflicted in relation to what option I would support, and I was keen to explore further with you option 2, which is completely out of left field from the rest of the councillors, but I considered the economic headwinds that are coming not only for this region but also for the rest of Australia over the next 12 to 18 months. And then probably from the Gladstone region's perspective, an avalanche of new industry and employees. So that little bump in the road, for use of a better word, because I know a lot of people are suffering out there, not only in this region but in the rest of Australia as a whole, that we look at focusing our attention on the next 12 to 18 months and then perhaps the Gladstone region might be out of the woods, and time will tell what's happening with the rest of Australia. But I was keen to explore, as I said at the start, option 2 because it indicated to me that we utilise the now available funds, even though they weren't originally budgeted for a livability campaign between today and the economic headwinds that we're facing and the new arrivals with our new industries coming to town. How do we deal with that next 12 to 18 months? And I wondered whether by suggesting this option you were saying, well, let the Gladstone Regional Council do a livability campaign, or let GAPDL do a livability campaign, or let some other proponent do the livability campaign, because we've always spoke about wanting to attract new doctors and new professionals and other workers who aren't related to our industrialised city to our region. But not only that, also from an investment point of view, where the Sydney and Melbourneites can sell their properties for 4 times the amount that properties are available for sale and purchase in the Gladstone region, and come up here and live in the wonderful environment that we all enjoy and refuse to leave because we have such a good time up here. So I looked at that aspect as to one, do we use that money to attract the missing links in our community that currently exist and support what is obviously an economic downturn over the next 12 to 18 months until the new industries fire up and the new workers arrive to town, and to focus on the fact that you can buy a property in Gladstone, a beautiful property in Gladstone, for a quarter of the price that you'd pay in Sydney and Melbourne, and yet enjoy probably better benefits in this region with the Southern Great Barrier Reef and all our islands out here, and there's so much opportunity to do in this community and our region as a whole, whether we should be looking at a little campaign in relation to that. I don't think we as a community, we sell ourselves as an industrialised city, but I don't know whether we do a great job in selling the benefits available outside that, but I don't know whether we could use some more money to indicate to the rest of Australia that this is just not an industrialised city. This is a great place to live, work, rest and play, and come up here and acquire property for a quarter of the price that you're paying for down in Sydney and Melbourne and the rest of Australia. That's sort of my looking at. Can we utilise that money to focus on that? Can we give it to GAPDL to do that, or people are always constrained by funds, and we're always limited in our ability to communicate because of lack of funding. So if we give them that extra funding, will that advantage them in relation to being able to deliver a product which is already great, but make it even greater?
Thank you, Councillor Trevor, and that's certainly the intent of that particular recommendation, was to really focus on attraction of those skills that we are finding it difficult to attract in Gladstone, and changing the perception that we are just an industrial town when we are so much more. So, thank you. Councillors, I do need to clarify something. Sorry, there is an error in the report. The $500,000 is budgeted, so the $107,000 is budgeted within this year's budget. So that's my error. I apologise for that. So it can be reallocated.
Thank you. I thought I was going mad.
Embarrassingly, that is my
changes
error.
it for
Sorry.
me. No, well, we did make this decision in and around after budget time, and we'd probably already gone through the draft budget a number of times before we got to this point, and we were all taken back when the Queensland Tourism Events Queensland said they weren't funding the additional funds, and we had to find it. So that's
I sincerely
that changes it
apologise.
for me.
Sorry.
I was just about to support you there, Councillor Trevor, but back to you.
Yeah, no, I did want to add in response, and this is my second speak, so I'm out after this, Councillor Hanson.
I think I'm out too, by the sound of it.
I did want to indicate that although Councillor Hanson has indicated that TEQ have only come back on board for 1 year, the same argument will apply next year as it did this year. So the issue in relation to future funding, our argument will be the same next year if they decide to cut our funding again. We will simply need to go on the rampage again in relation to securing what is just and proper and equitable for this region.
I just had another point, Mr Mayor, that I haven't covered before.
Okay, Councillor Goodluck, I'm sure you'll find...
That's fine,
I
I've brought it up.
Absolutely happy to allow, and then I'll go back to the Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Trevor's point is quite valid, and you could use 2 and 3 to implement that. Where we reallocate the $107,000 towards the GRC livability campaign. It also says in number 3, council allocate the additional $107,000 to the group that should be doing that. It's GAPDL. And also, just to let you know that where GAPDL are currently working on an eco-destination certificate for the region with a to try and make this region eco-friendly, and that's another livability thing as well. They're already working on the livability part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Goodluck,
thank you.
Carly first.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson, and we are definitely partnering with GAPDL in the ecotourism certification. We did, Councillor Goodluck and I discussed that in October last year, and we are working through that, so thank you.
Councillor Goodluck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I was somewhat shocked to see my good friend and colleague, Councillor Hanson, try and gag me, but I will say that the standing orders provide...
First time this term.
The standing orders provide for the chair to chair the meeting as he sees fits, and I think he does a commendable job allowing all councillors to speak to the issues. But I understand completely where you come from, Councillor Hanson. I don't necessarily disagree with your point. My main focus is on the message that we send to Tourism Events Queensland and the state government. And for me, it's about maintaining the status quo, the traditional relationship that we've had with a 50-50% partnership. And I fully appreciate that it's only for 1 year, but 2 months ago they weren't going to fund this year either. And in 12 months' time, with the changes that are happening with RTOs and in the tourism sector, and with no doubt, as Councillor Trevor rightly pointed out, the the pending rampage that would come should they decide not to commit to the status quo 50-50% partnership in 12 months' time. I'm sure that there will be a lot of opportunity for us all to reevaluate that. I think it's important that we send this clear message that the 50% partnership between Gladstone Regional Council, Gladstone Region ratepayers and the State Government Tourism Events Queensland is what we expect and what we want to see. And if we send a message that's alternative to that, that we'll continue to put more funding, we just run the risk, I think, of seeing less equitable decisions made in 12 months' time. So I'm happy in 12 months' time to reevaluate what the landscape is at that time and see what we need to do. But at the moment, we've got a status quo position that we can maintain.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. I'm going to try very hard to capture everyone's opinion with the recommendation. I think Councillor Trevor may have got it right here. By option 2, it allows us to match the funding, send the clear message that you and I both want to send to the Queensland Government that we will match the funding that you make available to our regional tourism organisation, and anything less than that from a council point of view is unacceptable for the Queensland Government to walk away, as we said last time, from funding tourism, which they are now committed to doing again, which is great. And at the same time, if we allocate that funding, we get to have a livability campaign which can help us attract the specialists, the doctors, the nurses, teachers and other professionals that we want to see come to our region, show them what we've got happening. It'll be plenty of tradesmen and women that we'll need to attract here as well over the coming years. I think that's an opportunity now that we confirm that the funding is in the budget. That might help relieve Councillor Cameron's and my concerns before. We allocate that funding to a tourism livability campaign, but allows GAPDL to be able to apply, who Councillor Hanson points out is probably the most appropriate group to apply. But there are other local tourism organisations that may be able to apply, and there are other consultancy firms that may be able to do a livability campaign for us as well. So I think option 2, which is council match the funding of $393,000 and reallocate the $107,000 towards development of a GRC livability campaign, which can add to our transition roadmap, which we've already done, which says where we want to put ourselves in the next 10 years. This would provide council an opportunity to enhance community pride and attract new residents to the region through a well-designed campaign. I think, Councillor Trevor, that was a good option. Councillor Goodluck, back to you again, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to go on the journey with you. Can I just get some clarification, Kylie? Option 2 states there to reallocate the $107,000 towards the development of a GRC regional livability campaign. Now, by development, how much of that will be implemented with the $107,000, or is the $107,000 intended in that recommendation there to develop a work plan, a campaign, or will we see it developed and implemented?
It's the latter, Councillor Goodluck. It's developed and implemented. Thank you.
All right then. Well, I'm happy to come on your journey, Mr Mayor and Councillor Trevor.
Councillor Hanson.
So that I can have a reply to that.
Yes.
I agree with you, Councillor, but this has been developed outside of council. Is that clear? With a consultant, I would believe, or with ideally GAPDL, but with not developed internally.
Yeah, I guess Kylie would have to answer that. My thought from reading what I've read there is that we would probably call expressions of interest for someone to do that for us, unless you thought the team had the ability to do that in-house. I'm sure you've got plenty of time, Felicity, and no, you can do that this afternoon? That'd be great. Kylie, back to you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And Councillor Hanson, I haven't outworked what the livability campaign will look like at this stage. It was an option that we could explore. However, I think a partnership with GAPDL would be appropriate. We do have in-house specialty and talent to be able to deliver something like this, but I agree with you that GAPDL would be the appropriate partner.
Very good. Would Councillor Trevor like to move that way?
Happy to move, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. That's option 2 for those watching online. Is that on the screen now? Thank you. Tanya and Rachel, are you happy to second that?
Mr Mayor, see, this is a great, I'm happy to second the motion, and this is a great example of why we shouldn't gag councillors, because by my colleagues and the chair enabling me the opportunity to listen to the great insights from other people around the table, you've brought me on the journey and you've convinced me this is the right solution. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Councillor Hanson?
I just want to say something so that I can be the last person to speak, because that's what I'm trying to overcome.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Any further questions or comments? Councillor O'Grady online.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I would like to see GAPDL still have the reallocation of the money. So can we put that in that number 2 or not?
Well, we can, but Councillor Trevor has moved it as already, and I believe seconded by Deputy Mayor. That would be option 3, which I know you were supporting, and so was Councillor Hanson earlier, but that's not the option that's been moved at the moment. Councillor
Mayor, I'm amenable to any amendment. I'm happy that option 2 is proceeding in whatever form, because I think it's just an awesome thing to do moving forward for this region. So, if the view of the room is to include that amendment, I'm at peace with myself in relation to that.
Thank you. I didn't.
That would be great.
Yep. Sorry, I'll take
That's a
that.
mixture of option 2 and 3.
Yes.
Yeah,
It is. I mean,
yeah, that's right.
as Kylie said, they're probably the appropriate group to do it, but I also think that if you identify it in the recommendation, you might as well just give the funding to GAPDL, because you're saying here GAPDL do a livability campaign. There might be someone else who can do it as well for a lesser price that's probably maybe done 4 or 5 of these before. I think that probably ends up at GAPDL, but if you want it to go directly to them, then I think the recommendation needs to be completely amended to say allocate $107,000 to GAPDL, if that's what you want to do, for a livability campaign. Well, I think we're cutting ourselves short by not allowing us the opportunity to call expressions of interest. We're given $393,000 to GAPDL to do tourism, events and marketing, which is matched by the Queensland Government. If they are successful, there's another $107,000 for them to do that for us. But back to you, Councillor Trevor, and good luck. You moved and seconded.
I guess we get back, when I think about it more clearly, that if we get back to Councillor Goodluck's argument that we're really sending a message to the state government that we're going to tip our hat regardless. So I think I withdraw my being at peace with myself and proceed with my original motion.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor, and still seconded. If Councillor Hanson would like to comment.
If the opportunity was given to GAPDL, they would probably outsource some of this anyway, so they would be doing the same job as what council would be doing anyway, just that they seem to me to be the proper organisation to do such a thing.
Yeah, I think
that is the last I will say.
Thank you. I think that's probably how it will end up. But let's just let's see. We didn't know how it was going to end this way back in March when we adopted it in the first place. So the beast is changing. I think everyone's had their say. No further comments. I have a mover in Councillor Trevor, second in Councillor Goodluck. What is on the screen, everyone is aware of what it is. I'm sure. If you're not, please let me know. Or forever hold your peace. I'm going to now put that motion. All in favour? The one on the screen. Allocate the $107,000 to the delivery of a GRC livability campaign to enhance community pride and attract new residents to the region through a well-designed campaign. And those against? No? Okay, thank you, Councillor O'Grady. The motion is carried.
I only just wanted to confirm that it is the whole resolution.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just making sure everyone was comfortable with that.
Absolutely. One's on the screen, but that's the amendment to what the officer's recommendation is. And that motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll invite Councillor Branthwaite and Councillor Muscat back to the room, please. Welcome back, Councillor Branthwaite and Councillor Muscat. The next item on the agenda, councillors, is G4.3, which is Local Government Association of Queensland 2023 motions. And I'll hand over to the General Manager of People and Strategy, Carly Quinn. Thank you, Carly.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So this paper is to provide Council with an opportunity to consider 3 motions to be debated at the Local Government Association of Queensland's annual conference being held here in Gladstone this year from the 16th to the 18th of October, and also allow Council to nominate delegates to attend the same event, noting that all councillors intend to attend this year due to its locality. The 3 motions being proposed are that the LGAQ calls on the state government to invest in necessary social infrastructure to improve livability factors and attract and retain workers to regional communities. The LGAQ calls on the state government to establish a dedicated fund to invest in critical infrastructure and support the workforce sectors needed to enable the transitioning energy sector. And the LGAQ calls on the state government to provide local government funding to supplement operational and capital expenses associated with climate adaptation and carbon offset mitigation strategies to move towards net zero emissions, minimise the impacts of climate change in our communities, and minimise and offset emissions across council operations. I also have Kate Turner here with me today, who's done a lot of the background work with our teams to develop these motions.
Thank you, Carly. Thank you, Kate. And yes, you have done fantastic work, as I've seen from the Inland Rail project right through to these motions. Well done. Councillors, questions? Councillor Goodluck.
Great motions. Happy to support all those motions, and thank you for the work that you put into those. I'm sure that we will not be the only council with motions along those themes. So no doubt that it'll be supported at conference.
Thank you. Councillors, are you happy for the Mayor and Deputy Mayor to be delegates at this conference? Everyone will attend. You might have missed it on the way in. Every councillor is attending, which will be the first time we've sent every councillor to a conference, but it's in Gladstone. So you've just got to get in your car and go for a drive in the morning. You're right there. Or go for a walk, councillors. You can walk 2, 3 of you in the CBD now. Look at that. Councillor Branthwaite.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I think it's quite good that you guys will be carrying the torch. Hopefully we won't be arguing against the motions like the young Padawan. Yeah. Just a point of note with the motions. These are the same motions that we put to the Australian National Assembly?
Yeah, very similar. We've expanded motion 1. Sorry, yes, very similar to the motions that we took to the ALGA conference. We've expanded motion 1 to include advocating for improved health services and a housing environment.
All right, because these got bundled together at the National Assembly, didn't they? So, but they were 3 very, very good motions, and yeah, totally support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Goodluck.
Mr Mayor, there might be one more motion that I might like to put forward around particularly planning scheme or potential amendments to the State Planning Act around how councils consider major renewable energy projects, in particular solar farms and wind farms, whereby in some instances, and we've seen this in our region, where major renewable energy projects are placed in the right zone, in a rural zone, and that eliminates the ability for neighbouring properties to have any submission rights because the applications are code accessible as opposed to impact accessible. And it also, I would suspect, at least in some small way, potentially hinders the council's ability to assess those projects and the potential impacts that they might have on neighbouring properties. And the idea is not to stop these types of projects. We understand, we've heard from Rio Tinto this morning that we need renewable energy, but I do think there needs to be some sort of consideration for neighbouring properties to at least be able to make submissions and potentially have appeal rights so that council can fully consider all the impacts of these projects and then hopefully appropriately put conditions on the projects that will mitigate those impacts to people in those areas. I possibly should have raised this with you earlier. It just occurred to me.
Possibly.
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 I'm happy
in
to.
October. It's a great.
We
great
can
motion.
work this through, if not today, in the next 24 hours or so.
24 hours maybe, because motions close.
When?
Yeah, so
We have to submit 9th
That's
of August.
only a week. That's a week away. We got plenty of
And
time.
we need a
We need a
council
resolution.
motion, so, resolution, so we
Would
can
you like me to
outwork
put
the
it-
content.
I'd like you to come up with something in morning tea, and or yes, because we'll be breaking very shortly with the minister being here, and have it adopt. We'll adopt this as it is.
Done deal, Mr.
And
Mayor.
you
I'll
can-
draft that up and send it through to you.
Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Goodluck, and I think most councillors would. The opportunity for landholders has to be there to make any submission they want if there's big developments like solar farms happening next to their property. So I agree wholeheartedly.
Councillor Trevor.
I'm happy to move that this item on the agenda be adjourned till after morning tea.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Branthwaite. Sorry, Carly, sorry, Kate, but I think Councillor Councillor Goodluck raised a very valid point and a very good motion, which is probably going to be raised by another councillor anyway, but we can't take the chance that they don't. So we will hold that item over. I put the motion. All in favour? Those online? The motion's carried. We'll hold that over till the end of the agenda, and that will no doubt be after morning tea. Thank you. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is G4.4, Write-Off Report 2023. I'll hand over to the General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk, Mark Holmes. Thank you, Mark.
Morning, Mayor and Councillors. This item is essentially a write-off report for three debtors and 3 accounts that we've essentially have pursued all options with respect to debt recovery, and essentially just need a council resolution to formally write those debtors off. The amount of that write-off is the equivalent of $4,711 and is currently contained within our provision for bad debts.
Thank you, Mark. Questions to the General Manager, please. Councillor Hanson.
Happy to move the officer's recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Move Councillor Hanson, second to Councillor O'Grady. Councillor Cameron, you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. No, look, I agree with the officer's report. Just a question. Do these people get reported to a credit agency, the likes of Dun & Bradstreet or something like that? And if so, or if not, do we have a policy on that particular thing?
Good question.
Yeah, we've centralised our revenue stuff. So generally, when we work through revenue services, we report those that default that we're aware of. We did have a couple of these engagements happen throughout the business, but we've worked through that and have changed practices since following these matters up. So essentially, these were done probably outside of that centralised system, but we've now essentially corrected that. Okay,
I don't know that actually answers my question.
Well, yeah, but essentially these we do refer, but we have and we do credit checks and we follow all that through. But essentially, what we did find was that these matters were entered into without probably having done those checks in the first place.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Councillor Trevor.
And Mark, is it now policy of council to where we're dealing with $2 companies, proprietary limited companies, that we get personal guarantees from the directors?
We get credit reviews and we get credit applications with that includes that.
Yep.
Councillor Cameron, is that a legacy hand or do you have another question? Sorry, on mute as well. There we are.
Okay. Is that all gone now?
Yes. All good? Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries. No further questions, councillors. We have a mover, Councillor Hanson, second to Councillor O'Grady. The officer's recommendation be adopted. All in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is G4.5, which is the review of the procurement policy, and I'll hand back to you, Mark.
Councillors, we've got our Manager of Contracts and Procurement, Christy Wachner, with us as well to answer any questions you may have with respect to our procurement policy. As you know, we're required to review and adopt a procurement policy on an annual basis. We have gone through that review process throughout the business. At this point, we're not proposing any changes to what was your procurement policy for 2021 and 22, so rolling that forward. There has been some amendments to corporate standards and procurement procedures, essentially how we outwork that. But essentially that overarching policy piece, we're not foreseeing any changes.
I don't think there's going to be any questions on this. We're adopting as is. Councillors? No? Councillor Trevor, happy to move? Happy to move. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Henson. No questions? I put the motion. All in favour? It's carried. Pretty easy one, that one. Thank you. Easy. Thank you. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is G4.6, and it's the reschedule of general meeting for the 17th of October 2023, obviously because we are hosting the Local Government Association of Queensland annual conference. And it would kind of be a bit awkward for us to be hosting the conference and then not be able to turn up because we're at a council meeting. So back to you, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You've essentially outlined the report. Essentially, so it's just seeking to reschedule the general meeting that was essentially flagged to be on the 17th of October and pushing that back a week to the 24th.
Straightforward, councillors. Any questions, comments? No, I'm assuming it's a Tuesday, so you'd all still be available. We would have been meeting here anyway. So have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please. Thank you, Councillor Branthwaite. Councillor O'Grady, is that a second or a question?
Yeah, sorry, I will just be at a conference on that Tuesday, on the 24th. So I'll be an apology for that day.
Thank you. Is that the Parks?
Yes, correct.
Parks.
PLA.
Thank you.
Yep.
You'll be representing council at that conference, so that's.
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded, please. Seconded, Councillor Cameron. No further questions, comments. I put the motion. All in favour, and it's carried. Thank you. Now we'll move to councillor reports. Do we have any councillor reports, please? Councillor Branthwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly touching on the National Tree Day down at Cashin Park. As you said, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Hanson, myself, and a lot of other people turned up. This is actually the final tree planting day at Cashin Park at 10 cents. We'll be coming back to Gladstone next year. Look, it's co-sponsored with and in conjunction with Planet Ark and obviously Toyota. Bill Robertson, James and Aaron were there cooking sausages, great. Also Ian Anderson, he was on display with his native bees program that the council's currently got a program on saving them out of our water meters because they seem to be taking refuge in them. There was a lot of people there and it was really good to see so many trees being planted. I've forgotten what the shovel felt like. Anyway, got pretty familiar with it after about 10 holes. But yeah, also I'd like to mention I thank you to all those people, especially the council people involved. Monique and them, they're fantastic, absolutely fantastic. The Developing Northern Australia Conference, just briefly, locally known up there as the DNA. So, look, there was about probably 550 delegates there from basically, I suppose, the Tropic of Capricorn North. It's actually there is a legislated line and boundaries where that is, and we fall into that. And or it's actually a privilege that we fall into that because when we turned up there to talk to them, they all knew about Gladstone. In fact, I think the whole of Australia knows about Gladstone after being at the Australian National Assembly and watching our mayor get nearly mobbed a few times on what people wanted to talk to about what's happening here. But I was able to present on the transitioning of economy. Myself and our economic development specialist, Gary Scanlon, he was present there as well, and we were able to give this presentation to probably be 150 to 200 people there, I suppose, as the subjects got more and more, because there was another few breakout rooms. People sort of come along, but there was a lot of talk about the transitioning economy that we're working with the next economy. So it was nice to see Amanda Cahill there too. There was a lot of interest there from the likes of Bechtel. there with Melissa Case. So there was, it was quite interesting because her role now is Global Sustainability Manager for Big Tel. So pretty cool for a Gladstone girl to be elevated right up there like that. So, but there was 3 or 4 things that come out of this. There's a multitude of learnings come out of this. You know, when we were talking before about storing heat, I didn't know anything about molten salt until last week, and I was able to ask those questions this morning about how these companies, because that's what they're talking about, is storing heat for the 24-hour or 24/7 production of electricity in the north. But the issues that they've got coming at them now, and it's the same right across all of our regions, is that there's skills shortage, there's the housing shortage, and there's a growing social licence that's got a lot of focus put on it now for all these new projects to come to be. So it's interesting how they're handling all that, and the way that the collective, being the Developing Northern Australia collective, is actually working together, considering how much wealth is north of the Tropic of Capricorn. So, as I said, once again, thank you very much for being able to attend this conference. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, and Gladstone's flag was flying very high. It's a well-branded brand now.
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. Further councillor reports? Councillor Muscat.
Thank you. I just wanted to do my annual little recognition to the QCWA branches from our region. I'm part of one of them, obviously, and just got to say that. It is in my register of interest. Last week, well, for the last 10 days, we had AGMs across the region: Mount Larkham, Ambrose, Gladstone, Calliope, Tannum, and the Voyne Valley. So it's always a pleasure to go and have a look at what all of these branches are doing and how much the women are working to support their community. So congratulations to everybody. And also thank you to the councillors that went to enjoy some of the hospitality and the presentations. Now, the other thing I wanted to note, and I don't normally note everything that I do, but I go to the art gallery a lot. And last week we had a little bit of an extra special opening for More Than Meets the Eye by artist Beryl Wood. She's been contributing to our art space since the 1990s, and she's in her 80s, in her late 80s. So just wanted to say that we appreciate what she's done and what she's still going to do for our region.
Yeah. Councillors, any further councillor reports? Councillor Goodluck has been very efficient and has already emailed us a draft resolution. So I might ask Carly to come back to the agenda, and we'll go back to item 4.3. Our Minister for Local Government, Assistant Minister for Local Government isn't here yet, so we will go back and see if we can include this item. I've sent it to you, Rachel, and Tanya as well, so we can bring that up on the screen, please. Carly, do you have that too?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. I agree. Councillor, just give you an opportunity to read that.
Should you have council or just the planning authority or the development assessor?
Is that, I know this is, my deputy has amazing eyes, but is it possible it could be a little bit bigger? There we are. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Only now, yeah. Thank you. Queensland State Planning Act will enable.
Sorry, maybe to mitigate the impacts, if any, doesn't necessarily.
Well, there's always,
Yeah, that's
I think there's always impacts.
Sorry, if I can
Not
jump in,
necessarily.
please,
Yes, please.
councillors.
Yeah.
I guess one of the, probably the important factors that we need to consider in this wording is that we need the submitters to be able to have submitters' rights, is probably the wording we're looking for.
Yeah.
There is other motions that have been tabled through the conferences before. So we may want to consider whether we're including large-scale renewable or removing the word large, because it, for some of our rural landholders, it's probably not the size of the renewable energy project, it's where it's situated on the parcel of land and impacts to those neighbouring properties and whatnot.
I think that's fair too, because what's a large scale? They can easily argue, well, it's not large scale. I think if you're happy with that, Deputy, we could take just properties,
Happy with that?
renewable energy projects such as solar farms and wind farms to be able to make submissions. Can we take to council under the planning scheme out, just make submissions under the Planning Act? Because some of our projects will be in, potentially in state development land. And therefore, well, some will be there, yeah, and therefore we might not necessarily be the planning authority.
I think
Coordinator
Ellie
General.
may have
Yep.
some alternative wording for that
Please do.
last sentence for us to consider.
Yep.
I think we need to change it to the Queensland State Planning Act 2016 that will enable neighbouring properties to access submitter rights to renewable energy projects. So the neighbouring properties, we want to ensure that they have the submitter rights for those projects.
So neighbouring properties to renewable energy projects such as solar farms and wind farms.
To have submitter rights.
Yeah.
Under the Planning Act 2016, yeah.
Silly question, but can you clarify, is this because they're renewable energy projects that they don't have submitter rights, or
It's how they, well, sorry, you
or
can.
any project, any energy-related project?
Predominantly solar farms currently. They are code accessible, not impact accessible, so they still have to comply with elements of our planning scheme. However, because they're code accessible, they don't go through that full impact assessment with the opportunity to provide submissions from the landholders.
But all other energy projects would be impact accessible then?
I'd have to take the question on notice, but
Wind,
yes.
wind farms currently don't come to council for assessment at
Yeah.
all. So I think that's an issue in itself, but that will be no doubt raised at the conference. But the solar farms in particular, which we're seeing
Yeah.
in our region, which you would have
Yeah.
read some stuff about, it's not necessarily an issue with trying to stop solar farms, but I think it's prudent for us to enable neighbouring landholders to at least make submissions so that council can consider those submissions and mitigate those
I
impacts
agree.
through.
I don't have any issues with the motion. It's just, I was just wanted to clarify whether there's only the renewable energy projects that don't, that this doesn't apply. It could be any energy project at the end of the day.
Well, solar farms is the specific issue
Yeah.
that I've come across. I'm not sure if Ali's got any other examples, but
No, the solar farm one is the major one at the moment that we're hearing about.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to make a suggestion. If we put a full stop after submitter rights, I don't think it loses any meaning because we're already talking about the Act and submitter rights.
Thank you.
Does that, with the, is that?
Love it.
Yeah, just to get cut through.
The amendment is, I'll come back to you, Councillor Trevor, is the LGAQ calls on the state government, yep, fair enough, to consider amendments to the Planning Act 2016 Queensland that will enable neighbouring properties to renewable energy projects such as solar farms, wind farms to have submitted rights. Councillor Trevor, question.
I haven't read the Act for many years, but I just wondered whether the submitter rights these days includes appeal rights.
Yes.
It does, Mark? Yeah, okay. That's okay. I haven't, as I said, read it for years. I just can't remember whether it includes appeal rights, but if it includes, if submitter rights includes appeal rights, that's good.
I'm not wanting to complicate it anymore, but do we just want neighbouring properties? Does council, if council is not currently allowed the opportunity to have comment on solar or wind farms, should we wish to be included in that as well? Or are we complicating the motion too much?
My response would probably be to Councillor Goodluck around the original intent of the motion around neighbouring properties, but it's Councillor Goodluck's decision.
We probably don't. I've got no doubt, and you're probably more aware than I am, Mr Mayor, that the wind farm issue will be raised at the conference and already has been in previous conferences. This in particular, for me, is about the neighbouring properties. But if you open up these projects to submitter rights, it will effectively give everyone submitter rights to the projects anyway. So we can work through, I think, in the context of the background for the motion, we can put a lot of that content in there. But for the sake of getting the motion on the books agreed to by council, I think that's sufficient for me.
Can I just make one final suggestion that perhaps instead of neighbouring properties, it's neighbouring landowners or adjoining landowners because it's the land owner or holder that has the right versus the property?
Or for the sake of, should we just put, which will enable communities? Because under an impact accessible, you don't have to be a neighbouring property to make a submission, but they're the most likely ones to obviously make a submission. Because that's a good point that the CEO raised, I think. It's not just neighbouring properties that have submitter rights. How would we word that? Just enable...
Unless you flip it around, that will enable submitter rights for renewable energy projects such as solar farms and wind farms.
The WHO is going to be able to do it. So anyone is able to do it.
That will enable submitter rights. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Is it for renewable energy projects? And then...
Such as solar farms and wind farms.
Does that
perfect?
Catch the intent?
We got there in the end.
I have this.
Much simpler too.
And that is why I called it a draft motion.
Yeah. All right, just have the Assistant Minister calling, so we'll manage this item first. Everyone happy with the amended recommendation, and then authorise Mayor and Deputy Mayor to attend the conference. Thank you. Mover, please. Councillor Muscat. Second, Councillor Branthwaite. Any further questions or comments? Put the motion. All in favour? That is carried. And I believe, based on the fact that I just received a call from the Assistant Minister, that she's probably here. So we will break for morning tea, and then there is still a confidential item that I'll hand over to the Deputy Mayor to manage after morning tea. We'll be back shortly. Thank you.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering costs our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
dive in a dumper.
See it, report it, stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering costs our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it, report it, stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering costs our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it, report it, stop it.
Good morning and welcome back. We do have Mayor Matt Burnett and Councillor Desley O'Grady who have left us, but we will continue on the meeting in their absence. I believe we're up to councillor reports. Where there's no further councillor reports, councillors, everyone's good. We've got no urgent business items, no notices of motions, but we do have a confidential item. So in accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012, Section 254J, it is proposed to close the meeting to discuss one confidential business item. Item G/8.1, Recyclables Processing Contract, will be closed under Section 254J, negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of the local government, as this will discuss contract negotiations. So can I please have a mover for us to move into confidential? Moved Councillor Branthwaite, seconded Councillor Hanson. I'll put that motion all in favour. Declare it carried.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Thank you. And we've got item number G/8.1, the Confidential Officer's Report Recyclables Processing Contract. We do have the Officer's recommendation on the screen there. Do I have a mover for the Officer's recommendation? Moved Councillor Branthwaite, seconded Councillor Hanson. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? We'll declare that carried. And we'll declare the meeting closed, as that's our last item, at 11:23 a.m. Thank you.